I know I must have talked about this last time, and I've given this some thought in the last week. I'm going to turn this into a really, really great firewall. Tomorrow's firewall is going to be about how socialism works, the emotion behind it. And any conservative will be able to watch this video and understand precisely, exactly why people are driven to socialism. But we were talking before about the reparations thing, and I think I say pay it. Pay it. What? What? Yeah, pay it. Pay it. 100 grand each. You sign a document that says that in exchange for this $100,000, you have been made whole, that this is what a reparation is. It is a restored balance to the equation. You are now, we're even. Here's your 100 grand, sign the paper. And the reason I'm in favor of this plan is multi-reason, but among the chief ideas that I like about it is, first of all, look, let's say it costs $2 trillion. What we're doing is we're buying the race card. We're buying it. You know, it's been played against us and is destroying the society. All of this Civil War stuff we were talking about a while ago is essentially led by this endless degree of victimization. So I'm saying call the bluff. Call it. All right. Well, you want reparations? We'll pay them. 100 grand a person? How's that sound? If you're half black, 50 grand. If you're a quarter black, 25 grand. That's what we'll do. We'll buy it. And let's say it costs $20 trillion. Let's say it costs $10 trillion. I don't care. For the sake of the argument, let's call it $1 trillion because $1 trillion is as unimaginable as 10 trillion is or 20. So I say pay it. And then by paying it, here's some things that would happen. You would have to sign an agreement like any other legal settlement. If I am going to give you a check, if I claim that you spilled hot coffee on me and I can never see the word C anymore, the letter C without going into heart palpitations, and I want $100 million, if McDonald's agrees to this and they pay you $100 million, you have to sign a paper that says I have now been made whole, I've been recompensed, and I drop my claim. Okay, so you make anybody who wants to take this money, and there's millions of honest American blacks who won't because it's disgraceful. But the people that are determined to take it, you say, okay, here you go, sign on the dotted line. Fantastic. Now here's where it gets better and better and better. First of all, it's not like you and I are going to have to work harder or they're going to take more of our tax money to pay this. Put it on the tab. Just take the whole reparations cost and put it on the tab. What are we at now? $22 trillion? Okay, so we go from $22 trillion to 24 trillion, 25 trillion. What difference does that make? It's not money anymore. Put it on the tab. We haven't had money in a long, long time, not in the way we understand money anyway. So put it on the tab. What? Print it. Print it. I'm not going to pay any more taxes for it. I'm not going to be harmed by it. I'm saying if we owe $22 trillion and this thing's going to cost $2 trillion, now we owe $24 trillion. Print it and pay it. Now it gets even better. So here's your check for $100,000. You've signed on the dotted line that says you now have been made whole, and so have all of your descendants, because you're basically putting a fire break between you and slavery. Here's your 100 grand. So put it on the tab, number one. Number two, give somebody a check for their $100,000, and when they get the check, they find out what the taxes are on $100,000. That alone would be quite an education. Think about that. All right, I signed the paper. Where's my check? Here you go. This is $62,000. Yeah. Taxes, bitch, aren't they? So now you get to experience the thrill of that. And by the way, if you're going to tax that 100 grand, and you absolutely have to because otherwise you lose half of the lesson, then that money goes right back into the treasury, which means that you're only paying out 60% of what you claim to be paying out, because you pay out 100, 40 comes back immediately in taxes. Great. Now what have you got? Well, you've got a world where people have signed away their grievances. Needless to say, of course, they'll be making those grievances. I'm not so naive as to say that means they're not going to do it. But the resentment generated among the rest of the population will be the engine that will eliminate the race card. In other words, I want reparations. Okay, here they are. Thank you. Here's your $100,000. I don't get $100,000. Here's your $100,000. Knock yourself out. Okay. Now, after they got the $100,000, if they start complaining about race again, what does every person in the country say? They say, "You got your money. Shut the." All right. You got made whole. Shut up. It's over. You were damaged. Here's $100,000. I didn't get $100,000, and that becomes the enforcement of the contract. And the best part of all of this is that it would be the best thing that could ever happen to Black America by an enormous margin. And if you think the consequences of it through, thanks, spacebar. If you think the consequences of it through, you're taking $2 trillion that don't exist. You're putting it into the economy. I'm not in favor of stimulus, but let me make my final point here. So all of a sudden you've got all this cash in the community. Now there's some people who would get a check, who would do the right thing with it. They would invest it. They'd put a down payment on a house. Maybe they start a business. Maybe they'd go to college. But I wouldn't imagine that would be the majority. Most of that money is just going to go into the economy and just come right back to the people who already have the money. So here's the best part. We've been talking about civil war and all the rest of this stuff. The greatest threat to this country is the threat of it falling apart from within. And the people who have the best chance of destroying this country are not the Russians or the Chinese or anybody else like that. Will kick their asses. And the military can take a day off. Civilians will do it. That doesn't concern me at all. I'm with Lincoln on this one. There's no giant could stride across the Atlantic and never take a drink out of the Ohio if we didn't want it to happen. It's going to come from within. It's happening from within. So if we do this, and it costs a lot of money, but saves the country, then you could phrase this argument. How are you, pal? I'm good. You're good. Thanks. Have a good night. Bye-bye. You could phrase this argument exactly like this. You could say, if I were making this case to the American people, I'd say, my fellow Americans, if I told you that there was an asteroid coming, and not only we figured out its orbit, but it's going to hit the United States of America. It's going to damage pretty much the entire planet, but it's going to destroy the United States. It's a big asteroid, and it will be here in 2 years. And it is there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's coming. It's going to hit us. It's going to destroy the country. But we can deflect that asteroid if we had $2 trillion. Who would be complaining about this? Is there anybody who would argue about that? Anybody? So the question is, if it's worth that money to prevent an asteroid from destroying the country, isn't it worth that money to defang this monster? And the best part about all this is by urging the payment of reparations, that guarantees that they'll never be paid. Because, folks, here's the big lesson. Because while the people who are clamoring for reparations on the street want the money, the people like Al Sharpton and Elizabeth Warren and all of these people, they don't want reparations to be paid. Paying reparations puts them out of business. They're done. They're finished. Al Sharpton doesn't need another $100,000. He can get $100 million out of this industry that he's created. By agreeing to pay the money, you're calling their bluff. Because you have to understand that the political people who are calling for reparations, Joe Biden, all the rest of these Democrats, they're calling for reparations because it buys them votes with people. But if reparations were actually paid, they'd be out of business. That's why you've never heard what these reparations are. Has anyone ever heard a specific about reparations? No, they don't want reparations. Let's take Sharpton specifically and his entire, school. But let's take Sharpton specifically. We need reparations. We want reparations. He can't accept reparations. For him to accept reparations is to put himself out of business. What he wants is he wants you to think that we owe them forever. That's what he wants. And that's what the left wants. They want the rest of the country to feel like this debt is owed to somebody forever. And while anybody with half a brain understands that this is not a real debt, that it doesn't exist, that we certainly don't owe anybody reparations for what happened to them 7 generations ago, once again, I say I'm playing three-dimensional chess here. I'm saying, granted. Okay, this is what you want? Make it even? Here you go. You're calling their bluff. And so Laura just said, Sharpton will call me a racist for this proposal. So Sharpton's going to call me a racist for being in favor of reparations? Is that how he's going to do it? What have I said that's racist? What have I said that's anti-black? Nothing. I said pay it. Pay it. We'll never have to pay it, because if you are prepared to pay it, then they fold. They fold. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Put it on the tab. You guys want to run up a $20 trillion bill? Okay, let's make it 22. It's already 22. Make it 24. I don't care. Pay it. And if I'm a racist by saying pay reparations to black people, no matter what evidence they have, I'm not saying you have to prove anything. I'm just saying, hey, here you go. Okay, here's your money. Now we're even. And it's over. I mean, it's over. And not only have you defanged this poison that's killing this country, you have done the very, very, very best thing you could ever do for Black America. You have ended the excuse that has been fed to them for their own lack of success. You've ended it. You don't get to... Al Sharpton is keeping people in slavery because it benefits Al Sharpton to the tune of many millions of dollars and a lot of power. So he keeps perpetuating this lie. I'm saying call the bluff and free Black America. Free them. It costs us $2 trillion to free Black America and save the country. I'm not saying that I believe their reasoning. It's irrelevant to me. They believe their reasoning. Pay it. We're talking about spending $2 trillion in infrastructure. I think the emotional and moral infrastructure of the country is much more important. I am not for one split second am I saying that they deserve it. No. There's absolutely no question whatsoever that there's no grounds for this, but that's irrelevant. It's irrelevant because they believe that there are grounds for it, and they're not going to be listening to Dennis Prager explain why they don't. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that they don't have any right to it. They think they do, and it is the propeller of all of their politics. So I say, take away the propeller. Give it to them. Here you go. We know what's going on. You want to play the race card forever. It's an endless debit card. I'm saying, no, we're going to buy the race card from you. We're going to make a one-time payment on the race card. It's kind of like buying out somebody's lottery ticket. You know? It's kind of like that. There are people that'll do that. If I win the lottery, I don't get a $20 million check. I get, pro rata checks for 20 years that presumably total $20 million. and I don't know what the exact numbers are, but if I win the lottery for, look, just play with me here. If I win the lottery for $20 million, then I'm going to get $200,000 a year for 100 years. There are people who will say, we'll pay you $10 million now. We'll give you a $10 million check now, and you sign over the $20 million to us. Most people would take it. Most people would take it. And the people that wouldn't take it are the ones with integrity. They don't have to get their hands dirty. They don't have to lower themselves to this. This is completely voluntary. And so what if somebody doesn't take it? Let's say that you're one of these social justice warriors and you don't take the reparations. Where are you then? What's your position then? I've been harmed. Yes. It's not fair. Yes. You owe me something. Yeah, okay. We're offering to pay it to you. What are you going to say? It's worth more than that. How much? Then you put them into a box from which there is no escape. Then you show the actual fact of the matter, which is that the political leaders don't want reparations. They want you to think that we owe them reparations forever. That's an exhausting piece of cogitation there, so I'm going to call it a night. Go home and visit my beautiful wife, who just got back from the dentist and is probably sleeping. It's going to be an extremely controversial firewall. That'll be next week probably. But that's good, because it's like every other thing that I try to, cut the Gordian knot of. Cat's fine. Thank you very much, Sarge, for asking. The easiest way to destroy nonsense is to grant it. Grant it. You believe there's a plesiosaur in this lake? Okay. I agree. Let's go find it. The more you fight it, the more they're convinced. Just agree. Sure, absolutely. Moon landing was faked? Great. Will the next rocket launch be faked? The rocket that took off in front of millions of people, was that fake? If you're going to fake the moon landing, why do it 6 times? And furthermore, if you're going to fake the moon landing and do the whole thing inside a studio, why on earth would you put a car up there that drives for miles and miles with uninterrupted video? Why would you do that? You wouldn't have missed the rover if you hadn't seen the rover. Nobody would have said, if Apollo 12 or 13, 14 had been the last of it, we went to Apollo 14, came home, did it, okay. No one's going to say, hey, wait a minute, we should have had a rover up there. No one's going to miss the rover. So granted, the moon landing was faked. Great, okay. How did they get the dust to flow like water? Why are there no dust clouds? Why is it that we can drive for 5, 6, 7 miles, constant video, not have the lighting change direction? How does that work? Granted, 9/11 was an inside job. Okay. It was a missile that hit the Pentagon. Fantastic. So the people who were driving to work right past the Pentagon that day, how many of them were in on the conspiracy? Because if it's going to be a missile and you've got people driving, thousands and thousands of people, so how many of those thousands of people had to be bought or planted in order to make sure that the number of people that saw the missile come in, not the airplane, that kind of traffic cohort has to go all the way through. So how many people would that be? One of the great things about being on the side of reason, and this is actually very important, is that if you ask moon landing conspiracy theorists about what happened, they will give you the same basic story. It was faked, but they will give you 100 different details. Happened in New Mexico. No, 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 no. Happened in Russia. No, it was Stanley Kubrick. No, they'll give you 100 different details. You look at the 9/11 conspiracy people, and you'll find, see, that's a missile pod. No, no, it wasn't a missile pod. They changed ships. No, they didn't change ships. No, they'll have 100 different details to explain this thing away, but none of them will agree. While if you're on the side of the truth, it's like, yeah, 19 guys trained with Al Qaeda, 20. One of them was late, missed the plane. 19 guys got on 4 airplanes, took over the airplanes with box cutters, killed the pilots, and flew the airplanes into buildings. We saw it happen in real time. We saw it happen. Do flat Earth. I was looking at some of the strange coincidence. I was looking at a guy shoot down a flat Earth argument, and it's just, when you hear people, when you see the flat Earth thing actually, like publicly take a position like that, it's just, once again, bring it on. No, that's great. I want progressives to live in a world where 70% of the population believes the Earth is flat, and I will say, this is thanks to the LA Unified School District and the public education system in the United States. This is what you produce. We produce guys that can go to the moon using slide rules. You produce idiots that think the world is flat. And they've been on airplanes. They've traveled from New York to Los Angeles. They believe it. This is your education system at work. Now, you wonder why we are opposed to you? You wonder why we have guns? Really? You want to know? We have guns for many reasons. One of them is that we don't want our children to be forced to go to school where they come out believing that the Earth is flat. That's why. Anyway. There's a giant wall around the Earth. It's the giant ice wall. That's what you get when you go south or east or north or west, apparently. I still, for the life of me, don't understand. I know they've got it. I know they've got their own explanation of it, but I don't understand how on a flat Earth, where if this is the United States, here's North America, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia. How is it that if I'm west of the Americas, I'm just on the Pacific side of the Panama Canal, and I continue to sail west, how is it that I appear off the coast of Japan? How do they explain that? Oh yeah, DGG 44S for the win. They talk about the ice wall, but progressives say that walls don't solve anything. Walls don't work. Okay. It's a sad time to be alive in a lot of ways, and in a lot of ways it's a great time to be alive. And for those people who are saying SR, like perfectly logical, reasonable things, SR-71 cockpit photos, faked. I think it'd be worthwhile, frankly. I really do think it'd be worthwhile to take one of the. Again, I'm all in favor of. I think these ideas are so dangerous and so bad that I think we should eagerly foot the bill for something like this. Find the leading flat earthers, put them in the big yellow pressure suit, stick them in the back seat of a U-2, and fly that baby up to 80,000 feet. And then have him tell you what he sees out the window. There is no computer graphics, dude. This is your own view out the window. And that window has been there since we took off. You'd have to do it for a number of people. What do you see? You can see enough of the curvature of the Earth from 80,000 feet to see that it's there. But see, this is the kind of thing about this, the same argument as with the reparations. You could offer to take a guy up in an SR-71 and show him the roundness of the Earth, but I'd bet you dimes to dollars he wouldn't take it. He'd maybe say, okay, sure, but I bet he wouldn't do it. I bet he wouldn't. Yeah, the USAF is in on the lie. Okay. But At what point do you, champion of the flat Earth movement, at what point do you become part of the lie? Because looks flat, looks flat, looks flat. We keep going higher. Wait a minute, I can see it curving. It's a sphere. You'd like to think that if you took somebody in a ride like that, they would come out just as embarrassed as they could possibly be and just want to say, I don't even know what over. I have no idea what came over me. But I don't think that would happen. Yeah, they say you really put me in a virtual ride like in Disneyland. They would say all these things. But I'm saying invite the entire flat Earth movement as it exists. You take them right out there to Edwards Air Force Base or wherever. Foghorn will tell me. Is it that base in California? What is that? It is. What the hell is that place? I'm not going to even look. I'm not even going to look. I don't want anybody to help me with this. I'm not looking. I just know. I should know this. Is it? Here's my trusty ForeFlight, even though I don't fly anymore. Is it? Is it? Damn it. Is it Lemoore? Beale. Yep. I knew it was right around there. Lemoore is a naval station. Beale. Yep. No, I didn't want. It's not that I didn't want the help. I was prepared to look it up. I just didn't want somebody to say, "Oh, it's Beale." No, it's Beale. Turns out it's Beale. Lemoore's not far from there. Anyway, what an exciting time. And this will wrap it up for this evening's program.